Prince William made his move without issuing a single public statement, without calling a meeting, and without sending any letter of explanation to those affected. In the routine pages of the Duchy of Cornwall's annual accounts, a name that had appeared without interruption for nearly 20 years simply disappeared. That quiet absence has delivered a message far louder than any announcement could have managed, sending very clear ripples of uncertainty straight through Queen Camilla's closest family and redefining the boundaries of influence inside the monarchy's most important private estate. In the understated language of a financial ledger, where line items rarely capture public attention, the removal of one name has spoken more loudly about shifting allegiances inside the monarchy than any public declaration could have achieved. Prince William, upon inheriting the responsibilities that come with the Duchy of Cornwall, has chosen not to continue an arrangement that had linked his stepmother's sister to the estate's operations for nearly 20 years, a decision whose quiet execution has prompted discussion about influence, independence, and the personal dimensions of institutional change. The Duchy of Cornwall passed to William automatically on the afternoon of the 8th of September, 2022, the moment his father was proclaimed king following the death of Queen Elizabeth II at Balmoral. Under rules established centuries earlier, the title and the accompanying estate transferred directly to the monarch's eldest son and heir. No parliamentary vote or public ceremony was required for the ownership to change hands. What had been the primary source of income and the platform for charitable work during Charles's long years as Prince of Wales became William's to manage as the 25th Duke. The estate, created by royal charter in 1337 when Edward III endowed his son, known to history as the Black Prince, with lands and revenues intended to support the heir without reliance on the reigning sovereign, had evolved into a modern commercial portfolio spanning roughly 135,000 acres across more than 20 counties, including substantial holdings on the Isles of Scilly, agricultural land in Devon and Cornwall, residential properties, and commercial developments. Its reported value exceeds £1 billion, and in recent years it has generated annual income in the region of £20 to £30 million for the Duke, from which William, like his father before him, voluntarily pays income tax. This structure of financial independence, deliberately designed in the 14th century to insulate the heir from potential pressure by the Crown or Parliament, now places William in a position where decisions about staffing, contracts, and the overall direction of the estate rest with him alone. The annual integrated report published by the Duchy in the summer of 2024 made that reality visible in its most routine section. For the financial year ending in March 2024, the first full year of William's oversight, payments previously made to Annabel Elliott for interior design services on holiday cottages, Duchy offices, and a plant nursery no longer appeared. The report noted that during the transitional period up to September 2022, when both Charles and William held the title in succession, Mrs. Elliott had received fees and commissions along with payments for furnishings and stock, all described as conducted on an arm's-length commercial basis. Subsequent accounts showed no further engagement. Sources close to the Prince of Wales confirmed to the Telegraph that William would not be continuing her employment, while emphasizing that the decision carried no criticism of the quality of her work. The understanding conveyed was that projects she had overseen across the estate were considered complete and that the in-house team had absorbed sufficient expertise to maintain standards going forward. Annabel Elliott, the younger sister of Queen Camilla, had been brought into the Duchess's circle of suppliers and advisors in the years following Charles's marriage to her sister in 2005. Over nearly 2 decades she contributed to the refurbishment and interior presentation of numerous properties within the portfolio, helping shape the character of rental accommodations that generate revenue for the estate while meeting the expectations attached to any association with the royal family. Her professional background as an interior designer had already earned her recognition in independent rankings before the royal connection deepened. The arrangement provided a steady, if modest in the context of the overall estate finances, stream of work. Against an asset base measured in billions, the annual sums involved remained in the tens of thousands of pounds at most, yet the symbolism of continuity and family proximity was evident to those who follow royal staffing patterns closely. William's choice to let the engagement conclude without renewal aligns with a broader pattern visible in his approach to other aspects of his public role. He has spoken publicly about the need for the monarchy to remain relevant and focused, and those who have worked with him describe a preference for surrounding himself with individuals he knows and trusts personally. In the case of the Duchy, reports have noted the appointment of close associates, including William Van Cutsum, a longtime friend who serves as a godparent to Prince George, to advisory positions. Such moves are presented by those close to William as the natural exercise of a new owner's prerogative to shape an organization according to his own priorities rather than a pointed rejection of the past. At the same time, the change has been read by some commentators as an early signal that the transition from one duke to the next would not simply replicate existing networks of patronage and appointment. The personal history that frames these decisions stretches back decades. In his memoir Spare, Prince Harry described a conversation in which he and William urged their father, before his marriage to Camilla in April 2005, to maintain the relationship without formalizing it through marriage. The brothers express support for their father's happiness yet voice concern that a wedding would inevitably draw renewed public comparison with their late mother and reopen old wounds. Charles proceeded with the marriage nonetheless. William attended the ceremony at Windsor Guildhall and the subsequent blessing at St. George's Chapel, fulfilling his public duty while carrying privately the weight of that earlier request. The years that followed saw Camilla's gradual integration into official life, culminating in Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee message in February 2022, in which she expressed her sincere wish that Camilla should be known as Queen Consort upon Charles' succession. What had once been presented as a settled understanding that Camilla would not take the title of Queen had evolved under the pressure of time and circumstance. When the coronation took place in May 2023, the word consort had disappeared from her style, leaving her as Queen, the very designation both of Charles' sons had once hoped to avoid. These layers of family memory and institutional adjustment do not exist in isolation from the practical questions of property and residence that will define the next chapter. Unlike the Duchy of Cornwall, which is tied to the dukedom and therefore passes with the title, the private estates of Sandringham in Norfolk and Balmoral in Aberdeenshire belong personally to the sovereign. They are not part of the crown estate managed for the nation but are held in the private ownership of the monarch, descending directly from one sovereign to the next in the same manner as any family inheritance. Queen Elizabeth II received them from her father. Charles received them from her. Upon his death they will pass to William. Balmoral, the Highland retreat where Elizabeth spent her final days and where generations of the family have gathered for summer holidays, carries an estimated value well in excess of £100 million. Sandringham, the Norfolk estate where the royal family traditionally spends Christmas, is valued in the region of £60 to £70 million. Together they represent a substantial private holding whose future use and occupancy will be determined by William when he becomes king. Queen Camilla currently moves between these residences and others as part of her official life, yet none of them belongs to her in a legal sense. Her position, like that of any consort, remains contingent upon her marriage to the reigning monarch. Should Charles predecease her, she would become Queen Dowager, a title that carries respect and certain privileges yet does not confer ownership of the private estate she has come to regard as home. The only property that was ever entirely hers, Raymill House in Wiltshire, which she had owned prior to her marriage and which served as a private retreat, was sold some years ago as she committed herself fully to her royal role. That decision, taken to remove any perception of divided loyalties, left her without an independent private residence to fall back upon. The practical consequence is that her living arrangements after Charles' reign will rest on the courtesy and decisions of the man who will then be king. The modest financial scale of the duchy change involving Annabel Elliot therefore sits within a much larger architecture of power and dependence. What appears on the surface as a routine staffing adjustment carries an implicit message about the limits of inherited influence and the authority that comes with ownership. Camilla's family has experienced the practical effect of that message through the ending of one professional connection. How they interpret the larger implications for access, proximity, and security of position remains a matter of private conversation rather than public statement. William himself has offered no commentary on the matter, allowing the published accounts and the subsequent clarification from his circle to stand as the record. In the restrained culture of the royal household, such silences often communicate more than speeches. Observers of the monarchy have long noted that William has sought to balance respect for tradition with a determination to adapt institutions to contemporary expectations. His management of the duchy appears to follow the same logic: continuity of purpose, evolution of method. The estate continues to fund the heir's official work and charitable activities, just as it did for his father and grandfather. The difference lies in whose judgment now shapes the details of its operation. By declining to renew a contract that had run for 2 decades under the previous duke, William has demonstrated that the independence built into the duchy's founding charter extends to the freedom to choose his own collaborators. Whether this represents a cooling of relations between households or simply the assertion of a new manager's prerogative is a question on which even those close to the principles offer differing private assessments. What remains clear is that the change has occurred without acrimony in any official account and without any suggestion that professional standards were compromised. The emotional texture of this moment derives less from any single dramatic confrontation than from the accumulation of small, consequential choices that